So, hello everyone, we're here, we're playing. Continue, we're at the National Park. So, yeah, Elizabeth sped up a little, smirking at Cove as she fell into place between you two. Immediately you could tell by her expression she was going to say something taunting. I can't believe our families are actually on vacation together. She threw out her arms, speaking with a genuine sense of bewilderment. I would have joked about something like this happening, but now I'm not sure I want to give them any more ideas. Cove spared her a look and said nothing, instead continued walking. Just watch, next year they'll be talking about a new amazing idea. She put on a fake and deeper than her own. We should just sell both our houses and move together and think how much we save on the mortgage. It was clear that Elizabeth was being sarcastic. Cove simply shook his head, not really bothered by her. You suppose he was used to it by this point. But seriously, they do act like we're a single family just because we live across the street from each other. Elizabeth gave you and Cove a look, her eyes glinting with mischief as she leered at you. No, maybe one day we will be related. Legally anyway. Nope, not gonna happen. She said it as she was an old gossipy old lady. I don't know why me and Destiny always have to get paired up for those kind of jokes. There's no law saying you have to marry someone your age. Anyone could say that. Say me and you are the ones who will get married one day. Me? Me? In your dreams? No. Okay. He could have just as easily marry you. Well, actually, you need two people's consent for a marriage, and there's no way I ever agreed to that. Really? Never? That's breaking my heart. Elizabeth poked out her tongue at the both of you, giving you a sour look. She walked ahead, obviously not getting the responses she was looking for, and you and Cove swapped amused looks. The day continued on with plenty to see and experience. You passed a few different activities you would like to try out if you had the time, but such as kayaking, and rock climbing, but Ma said that would have to wait for another trip. There was a little stream during the walk that you sat beside and set up a picnic for lunch, nibbling on selected fruit and sandwiches and chips. Various birds flew by overhead, and you made a game out of guessing the species that were hanging around the trees nearby. You even managed to get a couple of them right, including the kingfisher that grabbed half of Cliff's sandwiches. I'm glad to do this in the end. It was definitely a special experience and one you'd remember for a long time to come. You smiled to yourself, committing the sight and the sound to memory. Your group made it back to camp just as the sun was setting in the sky and the stars were appearing one by one. Everyone enjoyed different parts of it. Most you traded stories of what you thought you were eating dinner. Then afterwards you pitched to help clean up. You, along with Elizabeth and Cove, got to head back to the RV early and spend some time together while the parents stayed out longer. It was nice to have the space by yourself after the cramped journey there. While Elizabeth had locked herself in the back room with her headphones, you and Cove were left in the main lounge. Yeah. It was your night to sleep there, so you might as well get used to it. You climbed the ladder and headed up to the loft, laying back there and relaxing after the big day out. Cove stayed down below and spread out on the couch, doing much of the same thing. Grabbing your backpack, you passed the time until the adults returned. The parents all arrived soon after each other, climbing into the RV and finding some place to sit down and resting their legs. Elizabeth, having heard the commotion, came out of the room for the first time since arriving and joined you all. Okay. You spent the evening chatting and playing a few games, enjoying the last evening of the trip together. Bedtime arrived, and within the blink of an eye, and the group hunkered down for the night. Your mom did a final round to be sure nothing had been left behind. She explained that Cliff was going to start driving early in the morning, like on the first day, but would be letting everyone else in the group sleep. There wouldn't be a need for all of them to get up. Now was the time to check you hadn't left anything outside. You, as well as everyone, were confident that you had packed up inside the RV, which meant it was time to get some rest before the journey home tomorrow. Your mom and Elizabeth said goodnight, headed to the back room while you climbed on the loft. Cove and his family got situated below previous set arrangement. You tried to get comfortable as a million thoughts were running through your mind. It was hard to believe what the trip was practically over, and you knew it. And before you knew it, you'd be back in your own little bed at home. You couldn't remember doing anything particularly exciting, but it had a nice change of pace from the ordinary. The minute ticked silently. It didn't take long for the snores of Cliff and Kyra to drift up to you. They were asleep. You poked your head from the loft and blinked in the dark. Cove's parents were indeed out. Cove looked to be staring at the ceiling. You slipped back into the loft fully before getting caught. Went back to sleep. You laid down, shuffling onto your back and looking up at the rivet set of the roof through the RV through the dark. At some point, your eyes grew heavy and you gently drifted off into a sleep. When you woke up next morning, it was to a rumble of the RV as it traveled the long journey home. Still blinking, sleepily you peeked over the edge to get a glimpse of what was happening. Cove was sitting with his mom on the couch, the two of them talking quietly. He must have noticed you moving around up there because Cove's ocean blue eyes snapped to yours and he gave you a smile. Morning, Destiny. Good morning, Cove. Junior Mom and Elizabeth emerged from their room dressed and ready for the day of travel. You spent the most of the day hanging out together in the RV, savoring the last few hours of vacation. Kyra suggested a few different travel games she used to play with Cove when he was younger. You all had a great time competing against each other. When the RV finally pulled onto your street as well into the night as you were looking forward to crawling into your own bed after the last few days away, everyone must have been feeling the same because it was mutually agreed that unpacking and cleaning the RV would wait until the morning. I like that. It's like kind of ocean and somewhat buildings. I would love to have this room. Once home, you went straight up to your room and dropped onto your bed, shoes and all. You're happy to be in your bed. You stretch out with a smile on your face, enjoying having the space all to yourself. The last few thoughts drifting through your mind, it wasn't long before you dozed to sleep. Tomorrow, life would go on as normal. Way before we go on, the family shopping trip has lasted most of the morning, and you still had to unload everything from the trunk before you could go enjoy the afternoon. You cradled another bag in your arms as you headed towards the house. It was one of the heavier bags from the grocery store, loaded with fresh apples, ripe tomatoes, a bunch of carrots, and even half a watermelon. Ma came out the front door and paused just ahead of you. Need any help with that, Destiny? I can bring you half of the way if you want me to. Yes, please, it would be helpful. Ma stepped forward to take the bag from your arm, and you made a quick run to get another bag. I need to close these soon, but not right now. You passed Ma again on your way back to the house. She gave you an encouraging grin, rustled her finger through your pink hair. You set the bag on the counter. Your older sister began to root around inside for the contents with a sigh. What if we get older and then we find out we have a long sibling that mysteriously they had? How much is left? Still a few more bags. With a huff and puff, Elizabeth continued putting the groceries while you retreated out of the kitchen before you could become the target of her bad mood. Careful, Destiny. You hadn't been looking where you were going and bumped into Mom, almost on her toes to boot. Sorry. I can give you a pass this time, but make sure to watch where you're going. If you run into the wrong person, you might get your license revoked. She grinned at the bad joke as you continued to the door. Outside, Ma had started organizing and remained and putting back any loose objects that had fallen out during the trip. When you stepped up to the trunk beside her. She took a big breath of air, her dress gently swaying around in the breeze. It's a shame we had to spend the morning cooped up in that shopping center. It's a beautiful day, don't you think? You tilted your head to the sky and gazed to the clear blue expanse. Yeah, it is. Close your eyes and enjoy the way the sun warmed your face for a few moments before turning back to help Ma with the groceries. Oh, hi, Cove. You noticed Mom waved over Cove who exited his front door, his surfboard propped up underneath one arm. Let me see, surfboard, wetsuit. Where might you be off to on this beautiful day? Cove hesitated and looked a little startled at having to be noticed, but he offered a slight smile. Good one, Mrs. Haas. He crossed the driveway to abruptly say hello. After all these years of living meters apart, your family had gotten to know Cove and Mr. Holden pretty well. Even if he wasn't friends with you or Elizabeth, he was still a familiar presence. You watched him exchange pleasantries with your mom until he eventually looked your way. Hey, hi, Cove. And that was all you could really say to one another. He adjusted his surfboard underneath his arm a little to get a better grip. I should get down to the beach before the wind turns. Nice to see you. Oh no, is he gonna be like, go under the waves and just be like, oh. That was the last goodbye. Cove turned and headed down the road towards the beach. I would like to live in this little area. Take care, sweetie. You continued to look the way he had went, and you became lost in thought. Let's go out. It didn't change things. If Cove would be there or not, you could still have your fun. You refocused on the task at hand, making sure all the groceries got inside. Once everything had been put away, you leaned against the kitchen counter, watching your mom busy themselves with lunch. Now, ready to go now? Can I go down to the beach for a while? Sure, Destiny. Remember to bring some water. What are you doing? My kitty looking at something. What are you doing? What do you see, baby? You're a birdie. Okay, maybe you could bring some water to Cove too. He's already there. She gave you a cheeky smile. You knew your parents had hoped you'd become friends with Cove, but the two of you had never really clicked. After everything together, you headed down to the beach. Have fun, honey. Stay safe. When you made it to the shore, you were greeted by a crash of waves and the soft calls of seagulls, but you took a lunge full of ocean air and felt your peachy skin warm up to the sun. You noticed a small setup nearby with a towel and some sunscreen and a bottle of water. It must be Cove's. Looking up momentarily calm surface of the sea, you caught a glimpse of Cove balanced on his board, surrounded by the gleam of sunlight dancing on the water. You chose a spot to settle down your own things. Now that you officially arrived, you wanted to go swimming. You ran down to the water and dipped your toes in the rising wave to test the temperature. It was just as you expected to be. Cool and refreshing. You waded a little deeper to play in the sea. After that, you felt like looking around so you can walk along the beach for a while. You found a few cool shells, a bit of sea glass, and there was a starfish in the tide pool that you emerged from, but you left it alone to check out the abandoned sandcastle. You wondered who the architect was. You never would have recognized it as a sand castle if it weren't for the telltale shells sticking up from the sad looking mound deliberately padded. You kept strolling and had a good time. The afternoon was over before you knew it. The sun was setting. The setting sun was visible on the horizon. Every time you would look away, it sunk a little lower. The beach was darkening, but it's still pleasantly warm. Your eyes turned from what the beach to what it was above. The sunset was cheery tonight, all warmth and vibrant. You heard a splash and noticed Cove had stopped surfing. He took a large step as he climbed out of the ocean, heading your way. You must be trying to be friendly. You looked back to him. Nice surfing today. He didn't say anything more, but stuck around to admire the sunset. After a stretch of silence, Cub finally decided on saying something. Decided something else to say. So, what were you up to out here? Nothing much, really. Oh, those starfish. All right. Bits and pieces of the conversation between you remained kind of awkward. You chatted a little bit more until the conversation was truly died out, and all you heard was the rhythmic sound of the waves. Then Cove sighed. The day can't be over, not yet. You scowled into the distance as the sun was setting. The sky was a personal offense. Don't you think it should be longer? Yeah. Cove stood up straight in the defiance of approaching darkness. I'm not gonna go home yet. I wanna go somewhere. I don't know. Cove was still dripping in salt water. You weren't sure what the alternative was. Wetsuit was fine for the beach and not much else. It wasn't a good idea to lug a surfboard around either. I want to do something too. Cove nodded in a smile. Then he looked down to the shore with the wide, shining eyes. At least there's one place that's always okay to hang out, no matter what time it is. The park. You nodded. The park was virtually always empty. Even Elizabeth only went there nowadays if she was looking for you. How many times have changed? She used to be so protective of that place. In fact, the only person near her was a chance of running into might be that Jeremy kid again. You brought up the idea to Cove and he cringed. But I'm still going over there. The sun is still there a little. I'm staying out as long as it is. You tag along. Really? Okay. You definitely hadn't expected it, but he wasn't going to stop you, and you hadn't expected that. Cub took a minute to put his stuff in order. He made sure to get all of it through. He didn't take much care to shake off the sand off. He led the way down to the beach. It wasn't far, so it didn't take you long. The sign still hadn't completely disappeared just yet. When you made your arrival, Cove stuck his surfboard right into the sand and tossed his towel over it. By now the two of you were mostly dry. The summer breeze on your skin kept you pleasantly warm. Cove vitally went over to the monkey bars and he grabbed it, feet flat on the ground, and pretended to go across. He'd definitely grown in the past few years. You could barely use the monkey bar yourself. It wasn't much space at all between you and the ground. When he got to a bar in the middle, Cole pulled himself up and through and sat on the top of the bars. His legs dangled off to the side of the bar as he perched on. took a seat. You sat down on the free seat and started swinging your legs. First slowly, then you added more power to your kicks. Air rushed past your face, ruffled your hair. You built it up enough momentarily to let it carry you. It was a lazy arc, not high or fast, perfect for having a conversation. Guess what? He smiled broadly and raised an eyebrow. He's not here. Right, it was true that there wasn't a single sign of Jeremy. Oh, don't say that, it's gonna jinx. Looks like it was just gonna be the two of you tonight. Cove hung his head and glowed dramatically. Your eyes widened when he whipped his head back up. I can't believe how dumb my parents are for forcing me to come to this stupid place. You're taken aback and blinked for a second before you realized he was quoting Jeremy. Our parents don't know anything. Cove chuckled back at you, amused. You looked around the old part of the street you knew like the back of your hand, the beach. These were your stomping grounds. You wondered how Cove actually felt, how much of his joke was just a joke, and how much was sincere dislike of this place. Moving had never been his choice. Do you like this neighborhood? Cove kicked his leg carelessly as they dangled. He smiled softly. I like it here, I really do. It's a nice place. He didn't hesitate. There was no uncertainty. That was his genuine opinion. You guys gotta stop that. I'm really irritated at you. So we're just gonna look away and we're gonna I'll have to just put cheap viewers. Move back that one. And put the thing cheap viewers. Cheap viewers. Okay. Okay, we got that. So if someone uses it, then we can get them. So what was up? I like it. The content feeling fell between you two. It didn't take long for the day to finally draw to a close. The sun was gone and it was dark. You chatted a little bit longer, but it was definitely winding down. We better get home. Already? He seemed to just notice how dark it was. It was hard to make out his exact expression with his face in the shadow. I guess I lost track of time. Cove sighed. It was time to go home. He hopped down from the monkey bars with the thump when his feet hit the ground. You stopped moving your legs and stood. When the swing slowed down, the chains rattled and the swing smacked into you a bit, its energy not entirely spent. Cub grabbed his surfboard and threw his towel over his neck, and with his water bottle in hand, he was ready. Both of you began your trek up the road. It was a quiet night, and you didn't run into anyone else. In what felt like no time at all, you reached your street. As you walked, Cove smiled to put himself. It was a soft expression, and you couldn't help but wonder what put it there. Everything okay? I just remember when we were younger, it used to be such a big deal to come home after dark. You could indeed recall if you got sandy, your parents would have something to say. If you got wet, your parents would have more to say. If you came home after dark, well, your mom and his dad better have said it was okay beforehand. You used to need permission for everything. That small comment he made exposed just how much freedom you really had this summer. Cub looked up to the sky, a smile still on his face, as you two walked side by side, remembering the past. When you came up to your houses, you turned to each other. Thanks for the day, Destiny. It was nice seeing you. Cove waved, and you both turned around to your respective houses. It was a pleasant end to the outing, you thought. Okay. So, there's a lot more. There's a lot more DLC. I know, like, they're like $4 each, I think. 4, 8, 12, 16, 8, 16. It'd be like $30 or so. And then summer ended. There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you were headed to class. Your feelings were muddled. It was a bummer. It was a bummer. Your summer had been so much fun. When you thought about going back to school, it was a sense of loss. Soon you wouldn't be able to choose how your days were spent without school bell telling you where to be and where. It was with a heavy heart that you chose your outfit for your final day of freedom. Life was going to be different. You had to come to think of the summer vacation as the norm, but school sucked up the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just a respite in the middle. So rather it being different, it was kind of a return to the normal. What did your normal life really mean? You considered how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids. You definitely recognized that 1 year of the pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. You got distracted. One arm still out of a sleeve you pulled through, put your mind back to the present. The season had brought about plenty of change on its own, like Kyra's visit. Though that too was coming to an end today. Robin finally knew her. She was interesting to be around. You liked how easy it was to talk to her. You finished dressing and went downstairs, ready to find out what the day held for you. Laying on your belly, you were lounging around on the couch in your living room. You gave your legs one good last stretch when your mom came over looking amused. Any chance you could make some room for us? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They sat down on either side of you after you arranged yourself. Doing so, you noticed that Elizabeth was fuming on from one of the seats at the dinner table. You weren't the only ones that caught that. It shouldn't be much longer, Elizabeth. We wanted to make sure that we were all here to say goodbye before Kyra leaves. Jeez. Destiny, could you pop on over to check how's it going, please? With a plain eye, you left the house and made across the street. Immediately, you noticed the front door up to the Holden's house was open. You approached with curiosity, peeking inside. Cove noticed you right away, greeting you with a wave. You stepped fully into the doorway. Hey, what do you need? Matt sent me to check if your mom was still here. My mom's wanted everyone to say bye. Cove smiled lightly at that and nodded. Mom's already called the taxi. We're taking our bags out. Cove, who are you talking to? And just then, Mr. Holden came by to see the visitor. His expression brightened when Cove took a step to the side so he could see you there. It's always good to see you, Destiny, but why are you standing out here? Come on in. He gestured you to come inside, and you did so, sliding past Cove. Kyra popped out from another room after hearing the noise. A big grin grew on her face. Hi, Destiny. So glad to see you. I'm so glad I get to see you today. Hello. Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back at the boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile. Then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from her grips, but his mom was unfazed, keeping him locked in place. Heartbeat later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly. I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cliff looked like he was bursting with pride, and then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened her hold on him enough to steady his face, concerned. She spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant to just for her son. Do you want to unshelf it? Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter. What's wrong? Cove sighed and his gaze flickered over to you for a moment, and then just as quick, it was back to his parents. It's all right. Are you sure? I don't want to do it now. I can tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange from growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were here, or he had a crush. You wondered if you should offer to leave when Kyra gave Cove a pat on the head. You can always call me if you want me to be part of the conversation, okay? I'll call. Thanks, Mom. Cove still looked baffled about what Kyra and Cove were referring to, but you watched his shoulder slowly relax. You figured that he decided to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. When Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After long, before the taxi arrived, rolling up to the front of the house with a clear view of the open door, Kyra stood up and smiling sadly. Well, that's my ride. Yeah. Mention replied, got a chuckle out of Kyra as you all followed out of the house. Father and son went with Kyra's bag in hand. Once outside, you spotted your family waiting by the street, and to your surprise, Derek was also with them. He stayed uncomfortable and waved as soon as you noticed him. Hey, Destiny. Hey, Cove. When did you get here? My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. I thought I could visit one more time before school started. You picked a busy time. Sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. He was nervously kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe. I wasn't even thinking about that your mom would be living today. I'm sorry, dude. What? You're not interrupting anything. You're always welcomed here. It would have been sad if I didn't say goodbye before leaving. Derek came to hang out often, so it was inevitable that the two of you had met at some point at this season. I think so too. It was apparent Derek would have preferred to have gotten there at the more opportune moment. He never really liked being impolite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. What the fuck? The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself. Bye, Derek. Bye, Derek. It was fine to get to know you. Bye, ma'am. Is there anything I could do to help? Yeah, that's where you shift. Over that. We're just about to sit. In that short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags into the trunk. Kyra took one last look at everyone inside. All right, I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out. The crowd that formed around started their chores of farewells and well wishes travel, but Kyra still made no move to get into the taxi. She placed her attention on to Cove. I'll call when I get to the airport and when I make it to Nevada. I say you better call the moment you walk in the door, otherwise we'll be wondering all night if you got into trouble on your way. I can do that. And could you call her tomorrow too? So I can tell you how school went? Yeah. You felt like there's emotion between them. Of course, I want to hear all about it. Cara put her hand. Damn, it's sad. Put a hand onto Cove's head, affectionately ruffled his hair one last time, and then she let go. Over to move onto squeezing his cheeks and her hands instead. My mom. Oh no, he got a sad face. He's got a sad face. Or just like a really face. I love you so much, baby. Damn. Getting emotional over here, and it's not even like 10 a.m. Oh, fuck. She chuckled by the time she freed him and rounded things off with a small tap of the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed at his face with a grin. That's a sad grin. Finally, she walked to the car, waving, and took her by her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad and then wrapped an arm across his back. Mom. Oh. Fuck. Bye. Bye, Steve Chambers. Kara rolled down the window and stuck her head out. I bet she waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff. See you again. Oh. I need a tissue. Okay, before she was out of sight, you decided to wave goodbye. As the taxi headed down the road, you stuck your hand in the air to send her off. The cab turned around to another road, completely disappeared from view. Cobb let go of his dad and took a few more steps out into the empty street, still looking in the direction his mom went. He smiled quietly. Deep in thought, you got an impression that Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mom put a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled at you, looking at her. This was a great vacation, huh? You're not in agreement? It was a good one. Yeah, it was a good one. Cove walked back to the group, diligently happy. Derek grinned at him, welcoming, and everyone was there smiled at him, even Elizabeth. Well, Ma clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I put something special together. Her eyes sparkled with plans. Mom smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. It'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced at between the two, his eyes furrowed. Is there something I could do? Your mom exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head. That was very sweet, Derek, but it's all right. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors. Mom laughed a little at her own joke. You watched Derek look away, discouraged. It's okay. I don't mind. He was a little bashful, but he wondered if Mom's joke had reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Oh. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring it back down. Ma tried it again to get things moving. Why don't you kids have fun? You should all come back in an hour. We will make enough for everyone. Mom agreed. Another stunning idea, Lonnie. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. That sounds like a plan, and I don't want to cramp your style, but I got stuff to work on. I can be out of your hair this afternoon. You should come by later, too. No reason to be the odd man out. Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile. I appreciate the invite. He looked at the assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can help too. With as many people as you're feeding, that's going to be a lot of food. Didn't you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we're the ones inviting you all. Mom raised an eyebrow at Cliff when Cliff waved it off. I insist there would be missing time with these pals. This would be a break for me. I'm quite the shaft. Ma and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged. An airtight argument. If you're so sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff. Cliff grinned widened. It seemed more hyped than you expected to be about helping with lunch. Cove shook his head, a fond smile on his face. Think they want to be busy with something? Then all us grown-up people would be headed inside, I assume. The rest of you could also staying out. Maybe not all of them. Ma tilted her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment. I'll stay with the kids. That's great. Both of your moms smiled, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. So, okay. But with the plan decided, all three parents waved and headed for your house. They're just teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others, a curious expression on her face. So what now? You suddenly wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into the work, probably. Then again, she could generally want to hang out, you can tell, with your sister. Cove spoke up after no one else did to answer Elizabeth's question. When I go down to the shopping street, it's been a while and I don't think there's a lot of things we could agree on. Yeah, sure. Sounds awesome to me. Like you guys, I haven't been there in 1,001 times. It's new to me. Let's do it. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive one of the convenience of Sunset Bird. The four of you looked around the familiar shops trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well. That's so cool! He ran over to the street magician who was currently doing a card trick for the group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face. What does it take to perform here anyway? Do you have to ask someone, or do you just show up and start doing it? Who would you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mayor, can I pull a rabbit out of my house, please? Blumpton is well behaved. I promise. Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up down the stream. Jesus, let's stay. Thought it was gonna crash on me. Ugh. Maybe there's a bar at the shopping street. No one does any of this around my neighborhood. Just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here I'm pretty sure people are just putting little shows whenever they want and do whatever they want. That's so neat. Would we be allowed to do something too? Cove laughed and Derek almost began vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do? Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found out it's a possibility, But there's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure we think about it. We could plan a show that really get a crowd pump. I wonder if I could do some soccer trick. Do you think that'll work? Don't know yet. With some amusement, the gang continued to pursue the stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with dangles, battered misprint globes that everyone laughed at. Cove picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought it had to be Greenland. This is a world where what looks like 9 continents. I think you're both wrong. That's Australia. The other 3 giggled at your interjection. Suddenly Cove froze. You stared at him, then tried to see what caught his attention. You saw a familiar face down the way. It had made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out. Oh shit, it's Jeremy. Fuck. Bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in the kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. Jeremy slowly drifted his eyes down the street, and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Dick frowned. Cove sighed. Neither of them were happy to see him again. He just looked dismissive. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into a crowd of people. Derek laughed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not going to start anything. He peeked over at Elizabeth with a tiny smirk. See? That's the mean kid. Huh? She still didn't get it. The first summer day hadn't been nearly as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek, but he smiled and waved off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed and Cove smiled lightly. He seemed to be in a better mood now Jeremy was gone. You guys wondered over where Jeremy disappeared. Hadn't forgotten about the day you met him either. He was only going to be in town for a vacation with his parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you would ever see of him. Nope. You kept that thought to yourself. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you had spaced out. Cove and Derek was already at the next stop. Come on, unless you want to get left here. You nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What were you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, then let it drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. You couldn't help wonder what though. What would have happened if you would just interacted with Jeremy more? You're glad you wouldn't figure her out. Jeremy, unlike everyone else, had met before. It was weird. You and the group moved on from the stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to return to joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had left. As Elizabeth mentioned, the hour were almost up. The little trip flown by, and the lunch must have been waiting for you now. Derek bounced on the balls to his feet. Come on, guys, let's get going so we can eat. I'm starving. Come on, here we go. Cove stretched his arms lazily. Let's go, then. nodded at him. Then you followed Elizabeth as you took it upon herself to lead the way home. She walked faster, much faster than Derek had preferred. She kept gaining a lead. Then Derek would jog back up to the group. With clothes going late, he had no trouble keeping up. Moved to front with Elizabeth. You kept up with your sister and listened to her gab about how she was going to call her friends later and see what she was up to. What are you doing, baby? Look at you looking at something. You looking at something? She said something. Call and what they were up to. You didn't know everything she was talking about, but you gathered it was important to her. Cal mostly stayed out of the conversation while Derek would ask occasional questions when he wasn't trailing behind. It was a pleasant walk home and there was no time. You had made it back. Derek got to the front door, held it open for everyone as you reached. Each motioned inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen. They looked up and waved. Welcome back, everyone. You guys made it in time. I hope you're hungry. So, did everyone have a nice time out? She gestured for people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you. Derek took the seat to your left. Oh yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. Yeah, this thing. You joked. Got a couple of chuckles going around the table. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat in the empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and the other kids. Mom sat down, a platter full of water glasses on the table. She looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we had a group of this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down to the other side? Make sure you all get one. Sure. Those close up to the cups obliged, started offering waters around. As everything got set up, Ma tried Elizabeth to take off elbows off the table. And you shouldn't slouch. She pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both the arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed to unsure about all the sudden attention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and Ma gave her a leveled look. You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either. Elizabeth groaned. Long-suffering Ma giggled and Mr. Holden chuckled. There's a lot you can learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed. It would show his posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His table manners, on top of it, all attempts to aid your parents made him the model of the meal-attentive behavior. It's nothing. It's true, though. You have been a lovely guest. I noticed it, too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair. And do you have anything good to say about our other guests? She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk. Or is there nothing else to say? Well, Cove is my number one, but he still cleans his hands by wiping them on his pants. Cove frowned at that and absently minded his brush his hand on his pants leg. Your mom laughed. Elizabeth, didn't you know after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore? Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. to buy the food. Your parents had made an excellent lunch. You took another bite and minded your business. Everyone ate their meals together and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food work, you and the others played a couple of games and talked about their plans for the upcoming year. The time passed quickly, and soon it was time to part ways. Mr. Holden talked to your mom, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing as soon as his dad finished up, he would be leaving. I guess we're going. Yeah, bye. Could you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth patiently gestured behind him. Cove realized he was standing in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out of the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. His sister made a beeline for the phone and started dialing the number. What you would figure out would be one of her friends named Elizabeth. She was going to be on for a while. You and Cove and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various goodbyes and farewells. See you later, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see you. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Destiny. You waved goodbye to him, and he waved back with a curt gesture. Seriously, dude, we will have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five, and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left. Soon after that, your parents started cleaning up the house. Elizabeth was still chatting with her friends on the phone. It was just you and Derek left. He elected to stay out front of the house to wait for his dad to pick him up. You decided to keep your guest company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. A light breeze blew through your hair, and Derek shifted weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked the ground distractedly. That's still gonna be a while. Do you want to go for a walk? Sure, I don't mind. The two of you walked down the street again, just wandered without destination planned. It was a quiet stroll, too quiet for Derek's being company. You turned to him. You had noticed that he wasn't saying a word. It was unusual. Derek always had something he could chat about. You weren't sure if you should ask about it. Somehow you ended up at the old park near the beach. You glanced over at Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from him. In fact, now you noticed a frown creeping on his face. Derek smiled when he realized you were watching. At least his mouth turned up. There wasn't anything really felt happy in that expression. He turned away and a smile fell off his face. His eyes stared intently at the ground as you raised an eyebrow. Is everything okay? I'm a little sad. Just with school starting back up again, it's going to be harder to visit. I'm just going to have homework, clubs, and practices and everything else. It really sucks to go to a different school. His face screwed up, and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? We'll make time. We can talk over the phone, have plans for the weekends. It'll be okay. Derek looked up at the sky. It was orange and purple, and a little wisp of clouds scattered about. A plane flew high with a jet stream trail behind it. He turned around to the ground again. Derek's face was tilted far enough down that it was hard to read his expression. Hey, Destiny, I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. There was a pause and you waited for him to finish his thought. I was just kind of wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who is a boy? Sorry, that was just a little bit weird to ask. What should I say? should be with the guy. Okay, then he hesitated before finishing this question. So is he asking me out? What I mean is there any guy that's kind of cool? Like around you? That at school or anything like that? He ducked his head further. You thought about it? No, we ain't saying that. Not right now. Okay, I get that. So Derek pulled him, should have said no. I like other. Derek pulled himself together and somewhat meekly looked at you all. He tried to project his confidence. His posture was too tight for you to believe it. He was nervous. You're now thinking ahead, and everything's important. You gotta get yourself a game plan and all that. It's good to make plans, especially backup plans. He babbled, full of energy to force gusto. Well, anyway, I heard this thing where people make pacts with the good friends. Oh no, don't be like that, Derek. If they don't find anyone else, then they get together like they're married and stuff. No, Derek. So I was thinking it was good to have plans. It might be cool if we did something like that. His eyes widened and he started to make frantic hand gestures. Just, then we never have to worry about the future or finding someone. We can just set it a whole decade in the future forever from now. We'd have graduated high school and probably college too. We have jobs and really be grown up. I mean, we'd probably have our own places and maybe our own pets and student loans and cars. Derek babbled on for a while, not as if the words he held silently during the walk had burst out all at once. So, what do you think? I don't think that'll work. I'm sorry, Derek. We're not doing that. I'm not doing a pact. Don't worry about it. That's okay. It was just an idea. Thanks for hearing me out and answering my question and stuff. You felt a little worried that Derek wasn't happy when he saw your face. He smiled encouragingly. Nah, he got rejected. He's trying to play it off. I promise I'm not mad. Nah, he's mad. Just wondering. I'm sure things will be okay in the future no matter what. Nope. You just nodded. You didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't want to miss his dad, so you both made your way back to the street. After Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night, stretching your arms over your head. You noticed that the living room and the phones were free. No, you took it easy. You flopped on the couch and wiggled until you were positioned just right, and you knew it was perfect because all the exhaustion from the day had started fading away. Then constantly you were pleased with the end of the day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw it was only about 10 minutes until your mom would be insisting that you had to go to bed 7, 8, so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched out your legs on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the 10-minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling relentless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure out in the hill. It was Cove. When the surprise faded, you realized that wasn't much of a shock. It was exactly something Cove would do. You left them alone. You might not be settling down, but the time you had come for you to call it a day. The few more minutes, nothing ticked by before your mom poked their heads into the living room. Hey, Destiny, we're ready to turn in. We just wanted to say goodnight before you got into bed. We hoped you had a great last day of summer. Maybe the first day of school tomorrow would be even better. Thanks, Mom. At that, you might stir there a warm smile you hope for the new school year to turn to be a good one. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your own room. That's a bench, that's like a building, trees, lights, and all that. Your mind couldn't help but be buzzing with thoughts about the future. You felt unsure. A new chapter of your life was ready to begin, and no one could say what it was going to be like. Slowly, your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning about wishful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it. In between, so we're going to call it there. So yeah, we're going to call it there, or I'm going to finish this. I like the twist. Should it be this? I think this. Change page. Then thick. Thick. Tie special necklace. All that change. Done. My feelings were cold, relaxed, indifferent, ready. Neither. Okay, save, and we're calling it there. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go join my Discord to be alerted when I'm live. Discord. And yeah, info for the other stuff, the other links to find me at. So thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go, and bye.